Hello and welcome to the All Things Social Impact podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Canaris, and today we're joined from Peru by Cesar Reyna. Cesar, welcome to the podcast? And for our listeners and the audience watching, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell a little bit about your background.
Hello, Andrea. Thank you for having me this time. Hi, everyone. I am Cesar Reyna. I am a Peruvian consultant and researcher who works in the mining industry in Peru. I studied law and economics a long time ago, and I had the opportunity to work across various sectors from government, business, mostly junior mining companies from Canada, Australia, and Brazil, and to consulting groups always focusing on evidence-based practices. I am here because I am excited to share my experience and insights with you and your audience today. I am dedicated mostly to build stronger relationships between organizations, especially mining companies and local communities, stakeholders, as you well know, and also to helping professionals to maximize their impact in the social sector. I do some workshops with young professionals in my country, trying to expand their knowledge and share my experiences with them. And that's why I do it right now. I do talk through my work in strategic planning and policy development and guidance creation. I am to equip practitioners with the tools and knowledge that they need to create a meaningful change. Well, I'm very excited for this conversation and looking forward to your questions.
Wonderful that you've got such a large body of work that you've done in a range of different contexts. Just, I guess, to frame it for our listeners, for the viewers, if we can start with, if you'd like to define what social impact means to you, just recognizing that social impact can be a term that gets used quite broadly. And for the listeners, when we're talking to you, Cesar, what does social impact mean for you and the work that you do?
Social impact to me is about, I think, creating measurable and sustainable improvements in people's lives and community. I don't think it's not just about good intentions, it's not enough, but demonstrating and delivering tangible and positive change. Also, the social impact is about generating positive change with communities in particular. Well, in Peru, communities are farmers, are poor people, the vulnerable people in particular. So I work in a complex situation here with very inequalities are very strong. I do this job mostly in the extractive sector. For me, it's important to addresses critical issues such as social conflict, community relations, and sustainable development. That's what I understand for social impact now. I focus my work in making this impact measurable and sustainable. For example, by the development of tools to measure the social license to operate and social profitability of some projects, some mining projects, especially in the exploration phase and then in the construction phase for the operator, the exploitation itself.
Yeah. That really makes sense given, like you highlighted, the complex environment in which you're operating a lot of the time and working in. So was it this complexity that exists where you're working that attracted you to social impact work in the first place? What were the things that made this career choice for you? How did you get where you are now?
Well, in my first experience began from observing the disparities in access to resources and opportunities in Peru, especially between local communities and business. My career has been driven by the desire to bridge the gap between extractive industries and local communities. I realized that effective policies, maybe if you implement effective policies and strategic interventions, you can make a real difference, especially when they seek empower people. You need to empower people in order to negotiate better agreements, fair agreements. That's not the current situation right now, but I try to do something. I was drawn to this field through observing these social dynamics and challenges and difficulties in mining operations and conflicts, of course. They appear everywhere when a mining operation when the mining starts some operation. And this which me led to specialize in community relations, intercultural negotiation, and conflict management. I think I like to create solutions to benefit both the companies and the communities. It's in the practice that I acquire my knowledge. I don't do an MBA or postgraduate studies. I do it by the practice itself,
Yeah.
treating with different groups, dealing with different companies from China, from Canada, Australia, Brazil, etc. That's the way I learn many things. How do I develop some tools that can be useful for many practitioners?
Yeah. And you have had such a wonderful experience, and you've mentioned multiple times, social license to operate, but particularly conflict resolution as being a really big part of the work that you need to do in between the mining companies and the communities. And you mentioned tools. So to help people listening here, like obviously you've learned a very pragmatic, practical on the tools kind of learning, and you've taken that experience in the discussions we had leading up to this about some of the really wonderful tools that you developed to help practitioners. You just mentioned them. Would you like to start with, let's start with the social license to operate tool, and then perhaps how you apply that in conflict resolution?
Yes. Recently, I sent you a PPT, a presentation.
Yeah. Yes.
I have a shorter version of that because I elaborate one when I starting when I develop a course for practitioners. The social actions to operate is a tool based on the way of local people evaluate a company. I understand what criteria they use when they meet a company, when they start this dialogue, this relationship. I focus on that because I was a former advisor for many local communities, social civility, social organizations or associations. So this tool, the object of this tool, the first objective is to present the elements for the first time, I think, of the social license to operate. So if you can identify these elements, you are able to define what social license is, because nobody have a tool like that. I think you can use it in a qualitative and a quantitative mode. This is based on different approach. I review many literature as possible to develop this tool. Main objective is to obtain the social license to operate and to maintaining in the long time. So it's focused on that. This is an important uh, framework. It's important dimension. Many studies said that the social license to operate is one of the major risks of the mining operations, like Ernst and Young study.
Yes, it was fourth or fifth or something is the top one of the top issues, wasn't it? Social license to operate for mining and
Yes,
resources
social
companies.
license involves sustainable development, human rights, and shared value, and social risks. Um, one of the most important things is to evaluate how these local communities give the social license to a company, for example, a mining company, how they involve, how they evaluate, which criteria they use, etc. Mostly in my country are indigenous people or landowners. There are types of social licenses for exploration in the case of mining, and for exploitation that involves different aspects of the industry. Thus, the exploitation obviously got many impacts in the in the in the short term and in the long term. The the key of this tool is to present how these elements are related, how they work, because they are connected between each other. The first element is the social value creation, so how the positive social change influenced by our organization, how a mining company delivered benefits to the tangible or intangible ways, could be material or immaterial. The second element is the social capital, is the strength of relationships between a company and communities. I think this is the most important aspect of the social license, the most important element or factor. The third element is the social risks. So it's the factors that cool business performance and the factors that threaten the community also. The negative social impact is the last one. So how the individuals are affected by companies' operations. So if the company manage well these aspects, can obtain the social license later. But the first elements must remain in positive terms, and the last one, the third and the fourth element, must be control. Must be the first terms, the first factors must be higher in value than the third and the fourth elements. So that's the only way a company can obtain the social license. There are challenges in securing these social licenses because it's an active agreement with communities. It's essential. Communities analyze the cost benefit of mining projects. They do all the time. All humans do a cost benefits and analyze. Even when we are humans from the caverns in the old age, trust, equity, and governance are essential for social license. But there are many other aspects too. There are some criticisms and objections to the social license as a tool. Some academics, some scholars think this is a vague concept, very subjective, not measurable, lacks of legal recognition, and many other criticisms. So, but I try to demonstrate that if you can use it in a scientific way, this knowledge I obtain from communities while doing my research for many years, you can you can create a tool based on their criteria, not my criteria. It's about their knowledge, their way of do things. Well, each element needs an instrument to measure of measure. So in the case of social capital, there is a proper tool called relational evaluation that measures the quality of relationships. In the case of social costs, there are many tools or instruments like matrices of risks or social risks. You can quantify the economic value of the. In case of social costs, you can also quantify the economic value of adverse impacts, even if these impacts are environmental. In social risk management, you can collect and analyze qualitative and quantitative data.
Yeah.
In the case of social profitability, you can evaluate the difference between the social well-being and the cost. But some instruments are based on economic tools, but you can you can use it well. So in conclusion, I think social licenses to operate can reduce operational risks and ensures project continuity.
Yeah.
It's building on trust. Community trust and long-term relations are critical, and trust is an element of the relation. The relation for basically elements that are trust, communication, values, and interests. So that a company need to manage to understand these elements. The other conclusion is this social license to operate is dynamic. So it's a dynamic and evolving process. There is a process in the meantime when the community evaluates the company and their project. Implies a commitment.
Yeah.
It's based on responsible practices, equitable benefit distribution too. So this is a resume of my presentation of the social license to operate. I start doing. It's not finished, but I am in the process.
We'll have to put links in the comments when this goes live to how people can get in touch with you around the tool and your book as well, to make sure that people who are interested, because I think it's an invaluable tool.
I launch yes, thank you. It's a good idea. I launched a master class on December. That's December. It's an online course right now in Spanish, but I try to 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 translate it to English. I will tell you I will when it's ready, and
Great.
I'm working on that.
We'll pop that in the comments as well so that people who are interested can find you and find the course. You mentioned quite a few times, and when we were talking, in fact, you and I had a discussion around the real importance of relationships as being one of the primary factors in social license to operate. And you alluded to it again in your discussion, saying that it's probably the most important. And I would imagine when you're coming into projects where there is conflict, that it becomes even more important. Have you got examples of how you've managed to use this tool and your approach to social license to operate to shift the relationship in a positive direction over time?
Yes, I have I implement these tools in my work while I'm doing this research. I have good results, positive results of that. I achieve an improvement in community relations, managing social conflicts in the cases that I have. This involves for me working on issues like prior consultation, social risk assessment, developing negotiation models too. It's challenging but rewarding.
Yeah.
It requires for me a deep understanding of intercultural dynamics, stakeholder engagement, and the ability to design and implement effective social strategies. Prince, it was very useful for me. I don't waste time and companies' money when I put in practice these tools. In fact, I obtained some permits, I obtained some license, social licenses in a very short time. People often trust in me when I apply these methods. They think I, I giving all the information they need when they ask me about the project, about the company, about the mining industry in Peru, about the challenges of the future, what kind of future the mining could bring to them. So, but it requires time, of course.
Yeah.
In every community, you need to stay there, talk to people all the time, even if be available. So to discuss many things, even if they are not so important for you, but for them. So they think you are ready, you are there, you are trustable, and they think if you are open to discuss relevant issues that are not always that the companies not always talk or don't want to, you can obtain some retribution. You can obtain your trust.
Yeah. So, because trust is a big thing, I think everyone intrinsically knows that trust is really important. From your experience, and there's research around the link between trust and transparency. Have you found that it's a lot of you alluded to a lot of transparency in what you do? Do you think that's been at the core of it's at the core of your approach to engagement as not just an exercise, but as really relationship building rather than just, giving information and ticking boxes?
When I was a advisor of rural communities, I got some insight from them. So I know how they think, how they feel, how they view the world, their environmental, the situation of the people. So that gives me extra honest. They give me an advantage in many ways. So I can even it was difficult in many aspects due to the lack of unity in many communities, or are people who distrust you, who don't trust in you because you are a part of a mining company who try to exploit them or don't tell all the truth. But I mostly believe in me when I approach to them. But it's because they feel I really understand how do they feel,
Yeah.
so I can put in their shoes. So it's so so things I think are in that way easy for me.
Yeah. So if you would give advice to a early career person who is finding themselves maybe in their early career being confronted with the, I guess, conflict between the organization they're working for and the community that the operations is in, if they were coming across similar kind of struggles, what would your best advice be for them in terms of setting themselves up to being able to develop a good relationship?
Okay, I think a key learning has been the importance of integrating intercultural understanding into social impact strategies. You need an intercultural approach. So you must be or to develop competencies and abilities in the intercultural communication and dialogue and relationship. I also developed a theory called the theory intercultural relational theory. I think this is a correct translation. I don't know. That's a way to empathize or interact with people from other cultures. It's not easy, of course. You need practice. You need the will to do it. You need patience. So relationships don't build one day to another. You need to build a relationship step by step every day. My recommendation is to learn how to deal in an intercultural world, because
Yeah.
you interact with people from another countries, cultures, in your work, outside your work. That's a challenge, one of the biggest challenges you will have, in your career. I think this approach has helped me to move beyond the traditional conflict management techniques and negotiations toward a more integrative and transformative and bring me new and innovative solutions. But it takes time, of course,
Yeah.
patience and practice and resilience. You got to develop a lot of resilience. Most people will say no along the way, but that's a part of the job of the work, But it was a significant experience when you deliver it, when you really understand, and then think you are for them,
Yeah.
and
Most
you
definitely.
receive a recognition for them too. So they can identify you as a people of value, or a peop, or an honor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That must be.
at the end,
Yeah.
they integrate you to their practices, to their cultures. So you share all their principles, their values with them, your traditions.
Yeah.
They are really open when they feel you are a good person. I think they read you not only by the way you express things or what do you say. They read your gestures, your mimics, your tone of your voice. So
Yeah.
you can cheat them. They knew if you're lying, you're lying, or trying to hide something from them. So it's not a.
Yeah.
And this work continues to inspire me to seek create more integrated approaches. So because my tools are not perfect, so I trying to working with other people to improve them.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a continuous improvement, isn't it? All of these things, it's also not a straight line, is it, Caesar? Like when you're talking about building the relationship and trust, you might make quite a lot of headway, but you may come across another snag somewhere along the way, some kind of problem or conflict or disagreement. And it's important, don't you think, to not let that set you back, to trust in the fact that you've already built some rapport with them, and that doesn't mean that you're never going to disagree, like in all your relationships everywhere. That sometimes they have little setbacks, and I guess that might be a little bit about the resilience you're talking about. You persist with it and work through it with them. Yeah. So just trying to think, where should we move on from here? Because the other thing I'd like to talk about, because I think for a lot of people, dealing with conflict is not easy. So we talked a little bit about conflict, and you had some really interesting things to say about conflict and how you deal with conflict. And its relationship was obviously part of it, but there's more to conflict than just the relationship as well, because sometimes the relationship is non-existent non-existing in those circumstances sometimes?
First of all, I was driven by the conflict situation in my country, in the mining sector. That gets me thinking and attract me to bring me to this place, to this work. For many years, I was thinking, what can I do with social conflict? Uh, because of the impacts that can deliver to my, because every conflict can produce many impacts in economic way, environmental, social, of course, in terms of human rights,
Yeah.
etc. So start working on a theory of the relational theory of social conflict. It's a new approach I wrote. I finished, I guess, and the center, the main idea of this theory is the center of the conflict is the relationship, the relation itself.
Yeah.
You can find the tensions in the relation the that that then could be the transforming a conflict. So you need to read the patterns or investigate the history of that relation. No, do you need to investigate the relation from the beginning to today, and to analyze this situation, how it evolves from the start. What can you do to repair the relation if it is in a bad shape? Not I identify many categories, many types of relations. There are functional relations and dysfunctional intercultural relations. They are transactional relations. I think there are 8 or 9 types of relations, kinds of relations. Any kind of relation uh, delivers some. Uh, if you identify the kind of relation, you can apply the correct approach to transform or to manage the conflict. So you need to identify what kind of relation do you deal, and then you apply or the best methods, instruments, or to transform this relation into a positive relation.
Yeah.
The the center of this theory, I guess.
Yeah.
Because it's more complex than that. This allows me to also to predict some conflicts in the way uh, up in the uh, well, related to the shape of the relation. If the relation is in good shape, you can have a conflict, of course, but not a bigger conflict or a negative conflict. So you can manage the situation. But if the relation is not in a good shape, you can you will have more problems, more impacts.
Yeah. I really, really love this about your model because it was allowing you to determine the level of work you needed to do to prevent a conflict because you could see it coming if you understood the nature of the relationship. So it has a
Yes.
predictive element to it that allowed you to have to be preventative because you can start putting in strategies. I really love that about your model. It's really quite insightful.
And the relation itself is the like the cars in the transport sector. It's an analogy of in the society, and all the groups of relations are the elements who make the society, to establish the dynamic of the society.
Yeah.
So the relations move, the interests can bring people together to collaborate or to create a conflict, to do great things or bad things. All depends with the relationships people establish in their lives or with others.
Yeah. So we've covered social license. We've covered a lot about relationships and the tools that you brought together. So for the people listening, is there a particular example that sort of demonstrates your, I guess, best experience in social impact work? The thing that I guess that experience that kind of helps shape your work, because obviously I would imagine that the tools that you've developed have been built on some of your experiences in the field because you've got this wonderful dynamic of both theory but that practice and bringing them together in the real world. Is there a particular experience that you think was the thing that kind of shaped your career in social impact and the social license?
Yes, of course. One of challenge was one major challenge was negotiating with a large Chinese mining company because did not accept any kind of responsibility for the impacts of the resettling of the residents of Morococha. Morococha is a city in the middle of the Andes, Peruvian highlands. So this Chinese company start this process, but only not in a good way, not in a fair way. In this situation, it was truly difficult due to the lack of unity among the groups that are form part of the social civility. So they are not unified, and that brings another challenge. This is the complexity of this case, make me think on how to improve relations with the groups who are no who collaborate, how to deal with companies that do not have the will to take responsibility. These situations, I was involved for many years, around 4 or 5 years. So I was thinking in this complexity, I start measuring the social impact of projects, of large mining projects,
Yeah.
especially copper projects, and trying to predict social conflicts. It is when I was part of this process as a advisor of the local residents. This experience at the end was, in terms of result, was negative for the people, but
Yeah.
I learned a lot from this disappointment or from the crisis that the company delivered to the people from the impacts. So made me think on how you can change things, and that's one of the reasons I keep doing my job.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because it's not the projects that go well that drive you in social impact. It's the ones that highlight the reasons why you need people who can help improve the situation and help to maximize benefits, isn't it? So that's a really great example. When it comes to companies that aren't demonstrating a willingness to take responsibility, for someone more junior who may not have been in that scenario before, do you have any tips and tricks in how to manage, I guess, those difficult clients who don't necessarily have the will to earn their social license?
I start dealing with companies. I start offering my experience and service. Some directors or local managers think I can deliver positive results. Some see me as a risk if I start talking with people in the way I used to do. So there is a resistance to change in the sector. People want to control or do the things they do for a very long time and don't want to change anything, even if don't bring any good results. Because they don't want to change anything. That's the way they learn, the way they do. So it's a cultural wall you need to bring it down to in order to 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 deliver your ideas. You need to be consistent, resilient, and have patience with the companies and trying to explain that there is another way to do the things, a scientific way, because in social management and community relations there is no theory. Every specialist in the field do what they know by their own experience in terms of rights or wrong doings. It's like in essay. So no, there are no principles or core values or really good practices they can address, they can use, or the tools itself. Many people don't know about these tools, don't know anything. So it's very difficult to measure how do I obtain a social license, if I am in a good way or not. They can compare their experience because they have no any any metric, any idea, any key factor. So it's difficult, but you can move beyond this traditional way. You can try to deliver it more integrated and transformative, innovative solutions to the sector. I try to do it by explain about my work in conference of the organized by the sector, by the Peruvian mining company. Some people hear me, some don't, some others don't, but that's a process, I think.
Yeah, it
In
is.
the end, I think they will recognize some value of inheriting my work, I think. But it's a long process, no? So it takes time. It takes time. Like it takes time to build a relationship with communities.
Yeah,
Uh, that's the only way. If when they realize how to manage, how to build a relation, they will obtain the results they want. But they need to invest more in social issues, to explain things more clearly, to introduce change in their culture, corporate culture, and improve some areas like the, the social chess, the management, and the community relations area.
yeah, yeah. Uh, it's a great answer. I do find that it is small steps when you've got those, particularly the companies that are reluctant to get involved in that social license space. Is that recognizing that it's small steps? Don't expect big wins. It's going to be small little steps along the way, and being patient and understanding. And if you can celebrate those small wins with them, you'll get further. It might take a while, but you'll get further than if you're expecting a big leap in their awareness. It's not going to happen quickly.
Some companies expect big results now, but they are doing wrong all the time in the past. So you can repair relations in one day or a couple of months. So it's too many impacts they made. So it's a very wage, a very pack they carry. So you need to treat companies like a patients or clinical patients. They are in UC or they are in emergency rooms. So you are the doctor to attend them and they must know that you are the specialist and they need to be quiet so you can put your knowledge, your strategies in place. So because they are doing mostly a bad job, so you can erase memories, you can erase easy in an easy way. Though that's not the way social things are. So you need to recognize your mistakes. You need to apologize in some cases. You need to demonstrate a compromise, a very strong compromise, and make change internally and externally
Yeah,
in order that they can believe you. If you don't do significant things, they don't trust you at the end, and everything will be as the same.
yeah. I think that's a really
Yes,
important point, because all the talking in the world's not going to make any difference if your actions aren't kind of following what you're saying. If you're not doing the things that you said you were going to do, you can talk all you like. It's not going to make any difference, is it? So
yes.
it's very important. Well, Cesar, was there anything else? Because I'm conscious of time, and I know that it's very late where you are. If there is anything else that you would like to take the opportunity to share with the audience, the listeners, around social impact, any advice for them or anything else you'd like to share?
Sure, of course. I think in this dynamic field of social impact, focus on extends beyond conventional approach. Try to think outside the box. I am driven by a vision not only to manage challenges, but to introduce sustainable transformation. This involves a commitment to a continuous, for me, innovation, from innovating tools to measure the social license to operate and social profitability calculation in order to develop transformative frameworks like the relational theory of social conflict and the theory of intercultural relationship that I mentioned.
Yeah,
Ultimately, my mission is to keep practitioners colleagues with tangible solutions and deeper understanding of intercultural dynamics, fostering collaboration, creating measurable positive change. I think it's about bringing theory and practice to build more equitable, resilient, and harmonious future, um, and driving a vision where development and social well-being are intrinsically linked. It's a path that I choose. I think I'm in the middle of many things. I hope great things, but
Yeah.
it's a path. It's a journey. You need. It's a path, not a lonely way. Not. It's a collaborative way. You need other people to surround you, to defy you, to bring you, to challenge you, to in order to deliver these good things, I guess.
Yeah, that is such a wonderful message to leave everyone with. I really want to thank you for taking your time to come and talk to me before this and to give your time again tonight in your time. It's sort of mid-afternoon here in Brisbane. So I thank you very much. I will get that information from you and we'll put it in the comments so people know how to get in touch with you and can know about your course if they're interested. And again, thank you very much. Have a lovely night and I look forward to speaking to you again, Cesar.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and thanks to your audience. See you soon.
Thank you very much, Cesar.
Bye.
Thank you for watching, and if you're listening, thank you for listening. Remember to hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe. When you subscribe to the channel, I get more interesting guests and we can all learn, grow, and share our stories together. Thank you for listening. Remember, hit the like button, share, subscribe.